advocating for.
Right. Yeah, thank you for that answer. Michelle, any views on this from your end?
I think Amy did an excellent job in responding. I don't believe I have anything else to contribute.
Right. Thank you. With that, my next question is for Bhavna. Bhavna, do you think the US will remain the top destination for STEM graduates from India? Do you see any changes in the policies which will impact employment opportunities?
So, US has had the longest sort of history of inviting international students to its campuses. In terms of the infrastructure that US has, it's also the most expansive and not very easy to replicate, with the kind of, and it's not just about the infrastructure, it is actually what that infrastructure is aligned to academically and in terms of the professional training opportunities that students take up. If you look at the numbers, if you look at various reports, the US continues to be the top study destination for international students. Indian students specifically form the second largest group of international students in the US. And if you look at the largest group of Indian students and where they are going, the biggest group of students from India is still going to the United States. That said, Indian students are looking at a lot of different destinations for higher education. So the consideration set has definitely become bigger. When I actually look at, or if I want to take a view to the future, I would say that US will continue to be the top study destination for STEM graduates, also because of the kind of cutting edge programs that are aligned with industry, that are aligned with the latest progress in science and technology that's happening. All of those are being offered at US universities. In terms of policies that will impact employment opportunities, I'm not the best person to talk about employment opportunities. I think I'm more well versed with aspects of international higher education. But there have been a lot of positive changes. There's been a concerted effort to help students at various levels to not only get to the United States, get their visa for their education, but also students who are getting ready for their OPT opportunities and students who are already in the midst of pursuing their OPT and are looking for extensions. I mean, recently USCIS announced these priority appointments. So there's a way for international students who are looking to begin their OPT and students who are looking to extend their OPT periods, they will get priority, the option of expedited appointments through premium processing. In addition to that, US embassies around the world have been prioritizing visas for various categories, depending on the times of year, especially for students during summer and during the winter seasons, for the spring and the fall semester. If you look at OPT opportunities that are available for students, for international students within STEM, 1 year and extendable to 3 years, that's also something rare that you will find in the field of international education. So that really allows students to gain a lot of practical exposure, get a return on their investment on their education, and then look at opportunities, whether it's in the United States or other parts of the world after those 3 years are over. So with all of that said, I will say US continues to be the top study destination for students.
Thank you, Bhavna. That was really wonderful. With that, I'm back. Amy, this question is for you. Are there any work opportunities now available to Indian students aspiring to study in US institutions? Could you share the potential employment opportunities at your institutions?
Yes, so there are plenty of opportunities available to students from India, especially in the STEM field. We have many students that once they are in the US and working on their programs are awarded assistantships. So they are working with their departments to make sure that they're helping with research and teaching, which is an excellent way to start your program to kind of get into the workforce right when you get into your degree. There are plenty of different research opportunities within the institutions. We we welcome many students from India to study and research at our university, as we are a research university. We also have a very broad list of faculty members that have connections throughout the United States, so that they can get other opportunities at other institutions, which is a great way to broaden your experience and get across the US to travel and work at different locations as well.
Right. Thank you, Amy. So my next question is for Michelle. Michelle, in English language test and eligibility requirement for applying, what is the eligibility criteria for applying into a higher education in US? If yes, which is the best test you can suggest for getting into a dream university or college?
So when the institutions make the individual decisions as to whether or not they're going to require an English language test from a non-native speaker of English. Some universities are very liberal and will decide, well, if the student is coming from a country that, while it's multilingual, has English as one of the main languages, perhaps that university won't require a test to prove your English proficiency. But the ones who do require the English language proficiency test are doing it really so that they can make sure that the students can be successful as soon as they arrive on campus. Those institutions may have an English language program on their campus to boost anyone's skills if they're particularly weak. For example, you may be the most proficient speaker of a language, but perhaps your writing skills aren't as strong. So the ESL programs at these institutions can help you work on improving those skills because no matter what, the universities want you to be able to contribute in every possible aspect. They want you to be able to write well in English, communicate well when you're both speaking and listening to lectures and conversations, and of course, be able to speak the language in a way that communicates effectively how knowledgeable you are in your subject area, but also just in general. So the reasons, again, why they're requiring it are to make sure that you can be successful. So with that in mind, you will find that there are, and you're probably aware, a large number of English language proficiency tests out there. What the universities want to do is they want to make sure that the test that you've taken, that you're using, is demonstrating your ability to do well in the kind of rigorous courses that they're going to offer to you. So they want to make sure that there's an emphasis in academic content. They may also want to make sure that there's some general English, but they definitely want to make sure that the questions are not simplistic, but rather very challenging, like the textbooks that you'll be reading or the type of questions you'll be asked. I mentioned that there are many tests out there, but what's unique about the TOEFL test is when it was created, it was designed for use at the university level specifically. And in order to create our test questions, we actually bring in university lecturers and use university textbooks to write those questions. You don't need to be knowledgeable in that specific subject, but we wanted to make sure that the content of the TOEFL IBT test was 100% academic and therefore would be a way to demonstrate your ability to read very complicated textbooks and understand very rigorous lectures. We also recently created the the TOEFL Essentials test, which combines both academic English and general English, because again, we want to make sure that universities can be confident in your overall ability to contribute to campus life immediately.
Thank you, Michelle, for that wonderful answer.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question is for Supriyo. Supriyo, this is a big concern for the students here. Like, can you please suggest what is the total cost of study and living expense a student needs to arrange before applying into a course in USA? Could you throw some lights on it?
Sure, Joseph. So for studying in US has been a bit expensive, but given the fact that the students, they do get good placements, so they are able to earn and they are able to sustain that. So the cost of studying in USA for the students, on an average, the cost of studying in the USA for international students is approximately 45,000 USD per year. Now, having said this, it depends on multiple factors such as the course undertaken, type of degree programs, or the university that you have chosen to study in. So, and one of the most important expenses out of all the expenses that the student needs to bear is the tuition fee, right? So, uh, for masters in US, it ranges from, as far as the tuition fee is concerned, it could be in the range of 10,000 to 60,000 USD per year. Say, for an example, MIT would be charging somewhere around 50 to 55,000 USD per year, right? Stanford would be charging, depending on the programs, would be charging around 25,000 to 55,000 USD per year, and so on and so forth, right? So, so on an average, as I mentioned, it could be 45,000 USD per year. But also, we have to understand, along with tuition fee, there are living expenses, right? And housing as an expense that the students have to bear. Now, for US, the living expenses would be somewhere around 10,000 to 20,000 USD per year, right? So most of the expenses like rent from accommodation, transportation, miscellaneous expenses, groceries, internet, food, etc., right? Uh, are also the expenses that one needs to bear to sustain the life over there, right? So the living expenses to study in USA will definitely differ from one student to another due to the lifestyle and the choices they make. But over an on an average, it would be 10 to 20,000 USD per year for sure, right? So along with living expenses, the tuition fees, and the housing expenses, there are also a few expenses that the students need to bear. Say, for an example, the service fee, right, which is approximately 350 USD, right, which they need to pay before filling in the form for visa application. Again, for health insurance, it is somewhere around 500 to 100 USD per year, right? So these are a few expenses which the students have to keep in their mind before they plan their their study and they think to go abroad. Yep.
Thank you, Supriyo. That was really insightful. So my next question is for Bhavna. So Bhavna, can you tell, like, can a student work outside the university campus? Can online freelancing work can be done?
So this is a great question. I studied in the US. And one of the things that I was able to do while a student was to work on campus. I mostly worked on campus, but there are opportunities to work outside of the campus as well. So, and the whole idea of allowing students to kind of work during their degree programs and after their degree programs is to help them gain practical exposure, which is related to their academic programs of study, which helps them hone their skill sets a little bit more, so whatever they've studied in the classroom can be aligned with what they actually end up doing in the real world. So let me talk about, since the question specifically is about working outside of the campus, there are two main options that students can look at. One is the curricular practical training option. The curricular practical training option is one that you use during your course of study. Normally, after you've completed 1 year of education in the US, after that you are allowed to pursue a CPT. Your CPT should be less than 12 months. And if your CPT is less than 12 months, that allows you to pursue an optional practical training program. That means you're allowed to work after you graduate. If your CPT exceeds 12 months, then you are not allowed to do an OPT. And that's why we tell students, limit your CPT exposure to about 11 months or so to be on the safe side. And CPT is mostly internships that students do. There are some co-op programs as well that universities have. And these co-op programs are those where students get the opportunity to work on projects with companies on, and this is a very structured program. This is a very structured program for students where working is part of, or interning is part of the curriculum, and students have to gain that practical exposure. So that's something that students should check when they are applying to programs. What kind of internship options are available? What kind of co-op programs are available? And they wish to pursue practical training opportunities after their degrees, then what kind of opportunities are available in that area? How much support does the institution provide in helping students gain that kind of employment? Is there industry nearby, relevant to their program of study where they can find job opportunities? But one of the things that students must remember is that the main reason for going on a student visa is to gain an education. And that is their primary purpose of staying in the US or being on an F1 visa. So they shouldn't forget that ever. Working on, while you're studying and if you're studying and you decide, hey, let me go and work at a Starbucks, that's something that you may have to check, that may not be allowed. Like I said, work opportunities have to be related to your program of study. So you should always check with your designated school official at the International Students Office to see what kind of work opportunities you are allowed to pursue as an international student. How many hours are you allowed to pursue? And we'll talk a little bit more about this later in the discussion as well.
Right. Thank you, Bhavna. So I would like to call Elena here. Elena, you're currently studying in US, so I want to know your views on it.
Yeah, of course. I think Ms. Bhavna covered it all, but I think when it comes to off-campus jobs, you are allowed to do summer internships for up to 40 hours a week. And you can, of course, work on campus for up to 20 hours a week. Like I was a teaching assistant last semester. Now I was recruiting for consulting for the summer 2023. So I think when it comes to CPT, always check with your international office. And I think one thing that's not emphasized enough is that when you get a paid CPT, you have to get an SSN, which is a social security number, because without that, you cannot get your salary or how much ever you're earning on an hourly basis. So of course, check with your international office, always go up to them, ask them what are the steps to go about it, just because like you cannot go wrong in this area, because of course it's a whole visa situation. So if you're, I think, doubtful about something, either ask your counselor back home or go to the international office.
Thank you, Elena. So my next question is for Amy. Amy, what is a graduate assistantship?
A graduate assistantship is an opportunity for you to work in your department, helping faculty members. So you would be assisting with teaching or research for the department that you are in. Usually an assistantship allows you to be enrolled in less credits than full-time. So if at our institution, 9 credits is full-time for graduate students, but if you have an assistantship, you would only need to enroll in 6 credits per semester. So it's a great opportunity for you to be able to learn and do more research in your area of study.
Right, thank you. Bhavna, I would like to know your view as well on graduate assistantship.
So I think Amy's covered it really well. But one of the things that I would tell students is when you're applying for programs and you're interested in a graduate assistantship to also fund part of your education, make sure you start those conversations with the university early on, because graduate assistantships are also competitive. There are a lot of people who are applying for these. And so you want to kind of get your application in as soon as possible. Please make sure that you do that as you're applying to the university and not after you've gotten admission, because the position may have already gone. It's a great way to not only kind of gain work experience, it is also your opportunity to work very closely with faculty members and support your education. There will be, there's a stipend that you'll usually earn that will help you with your, with your tuition and expenses. So this is a great opportunity for students to consider if they're looking for some level of funding for their education.
Right. Thank you, Bhavna. So my next question is for Elena, and students would be, wanting to hear this from you, Elena, that they want to know the glimpse into the campus life of a student, and would students be allowed to take up part-time jobs?
Yeah, of course. I think when it comes to campus life, specifically in the US, I think one thing I've seen is that no day is the same. You do not have a fixed schedule. You have classes going on, but there's so many different things going on. So like you sort of have to roll with it. But I think I describe campus life as applying to a university. There's so many parts of an application that you use. You use the TOEFL, you take all these standardized tests, you do the essays, you do the LORs, you talk to teachers at school. And if you're applying to grad school, you're also like handling your job with the application process. So there's so much going on. So for my life on campus, there's particularly, of course, there's classes in academics, which is the most important. Then I'm also doing like an on-campus job. There's recruitment going on. There's other organizations that you're a part of. And of course, you also have to sort of hang out with people, understand how US culture works, because that's why you're here. So there's a lot going on at any and every point of time. I think for me, if you ask about my average day, it's sort of like my day starts at 7 a.m. and it like merges into nights just because there's so much going on. There's also a lot of self-studying. That's something that I've realized. I think in India, just in school that I saw was there is a lot of hand-holding. There are a lot of teachers who are going to make sure that you complete your homework, you do your assignments, but over here, the professors are just going to be like, this is your assignment, this is the due date. If you don't do it, you get a 0. So I think that is something that makes you like really hardcore inside, that you have to get your work done but like you are only accountable for it. Nobody else is going to help you out. And when it comes to part-time jobs, as I mentioned, I'm doing an on-campus job for up to 20 hours a week. I was also a teaching assistant last semester, which was a great experience because you were like on the other side of the table, seeing how to grade students. So I'd recommend being a TA to anyone who can. Yeah.
Thank you, Elena. So my next question is for Amy. Is there a placement assistance available for students after course completion?
Can you clarify, is it placement in it like a work opportunity?
Yes, work opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, so that's really dependent upon the department that you're in and your focus of research. Like I had said before, if you were working with a faculty member, they have a lot of different connections across the US, so they would be able to assist you in getting into various other locations at other universities, potentially, or other companies that might be looking for students to take up jobs. There at our university, there isn't a specific place for you to find a location to assist you with finding a job, but if you make connections with your department, they're more than willing to help you find some place to work.
Thank you, Amy. Bhavna, would you like to give some light on it?
So I agree with what Amy said. It really depends on the kind of program, but one thing that students should remember is this is something they need to start thinking about when they start the program. We often, there are students who may kind of complete, if we're talking at the undergraduate level, they may complete 3 years of education and then they may start looking for programs. It's always a good idea to look at internships. If there are, like Elena said, if there are work opportunities available to them in the summer, they can actually work 40 hours a week. They can do a full internship in that time. Explore those opportunities so that, there is maybe an option to even get a pre-placement offer, at the institution or at the organization where you're doing an internship. And that takes a lot of stress of many students. You're not then scrambling to get employment opportunities in the final year. Also, a lot of universities in the US have excellent career advising centers. They have excellent databases where students can actually apply for internships and job opportunities. Several of them also offer career fairs to students. They offer workshops, resume writing, and a whole lot of other skill sets that students need to develop while applying for jobs. So ask these questions at the time that you're considering an institution, when you're applying to US universities. If you are looking to, say, gain practical exposure, do an internship, do a job, then look at what kind of support the institution is offering, the university is offering to you. So ask them about the resources that you will get and how you can best use those resources. I remember when I was a student, in my junior year, we had a course that it was a 1 credit course, but it was a required course for us that we had to work with the career services department, get our resumes in, complete a few activities that semester so that we could familiarize ourselves with the career services center and thereafter use those services. So that's what students must do, and continue to engage with the career services center through the course of your degree program, and not just go to them in the very last semester of your degree.
Thank you, Bhavna. My next question is for Michelle. Michelle, the ETS tests and assessments are preferred by most of the universities in US. What are the reasons for that? And could you share some recent changes in the TOEFL test structure? And what is the acceptability of the TOEFL paper-based test in US?
Certainly. So you're right. ETS assessments are frequently preferred by US institutions, mainly because we created them to fill the need that they indicated they had. So for example, in 1947, we created the GRE test, which is used for graduate school entrance admission, because the graduate schools in the US were seeing students coming back from World War II with a variety of educational experiences. Some had finished high school, some didn't, some had gone to some college, had a couple of classes, some had had none. So they were looking for a way to fairly and equitably evaluate every applicant. And that aspect of fair and objective testing is what ETS is all about in all of our assessments. So the fact that we use humans to score the speaking section and the writing section of the TOEFL test, for example, in combination with artificial intelligence to just look at the actual structure of the sentences, that human rater who's scoring is somebody who themselves is an ESL educator, has worked in multiple countries with students of various levels of ability of English proficiency, and they're able to assess whether that answer from the test taker makes sense for the question. And that's really their purpose. You need to utilize both. We do all of our scoring away from the test center for all of our assessments, and we do it anonymously, so that the people scoring the test have no idea who it is that they're evaluating. They are trying to come at it with an open mind and really look just at the answers that are provided. And that's true for the analytical writing part of the GRE as well. There are sections of all of our tests that can be scored exclusively by the computer. In the case of GRE, that would be the verbal reasoning and the quantitative reasoning. In the case of TOEFL, that would be the passive skills, which are reading and listening. So that way, again, we are trying to be fair in evaluating. But I think one of the main reasons why people trust the TOEFL test, IBT in particular, is because it really does give a great broad sense of the student's English proficiency in a variety of skills, in all 4 critical skills of English language. So you're right, we did make some recent changes, and recent now is getting to be a relative term. So it goes back to 2019 before COVID. But we were starting to enhance the test to give test takers a better experience. And in doing so, we shortened the test. So it is 3 hours in length. And that's comparable to other English language proficiency tests. We give instant scores on the reading and listening section that appears on screen for a test taker at the end, again, because that can be scored by the computer. We've extended the registration window. A student can register up to 2 days before the actual test date, because we know sometimes students aren't the best at managing their time, and they might need to, at the last minute, schedule a test. Before, it used to be you had to register at least 4 days before your test. So we shortened that. We also have a TOEFL official app that is available on both iPhones and Androids. And you can use that app to not only look at all of the free test prep and the nominally priced test preparation materials we have, but you can use it to register for the test. You can use it to look at your scores, to send your scores to an institution. And because it has the built-in Google Maps feature, you can actually use it to locate down to the street level where your test center is, if you're choosing not to test at home. And that's been particularly helpful for students because, as we know, depending on where you are in the world, sometimes the signage is very good in finding the test center. Sometimes there's so many signs on the building you can't tell that it's where you need to go. So that's been really, really helpful. We also automatically provide a free practice test to anyone who registers for the TOEFL IBT. We reduce the retest wait time. So now students can take the test once every 3 days. I'm not encouraging anybody to take the test multiple times, but sometimes students want to see if they can do better. And in the past, you used to have to wait a full week between tests. So it's shorter. For some of the busiest test centers, we've also allowed them to offer both AM and PM sessions of the test. So that way, if students are themselves in school during the day or working, they can take the test in the evening hours. And again, that's assuming that you're going to a test center to do it. We also automatically provide the My Best scores, which lets you, if you've tested more than once, see your best section scores in all 4 sections of the test. And we calculate a My Best total score, because with TOEFL, we just add together your scores in the 4 sections to create a total. And for some institutions, they're able to use your My Best scores then either for admissions, because you've now hit their admissions minimums, or they may use it in scholarship awarding. But I think the best changes that we've made have been since COVID hit us. We started in 2020 offering the TOEFL IBT test as a home edition test that allows a student to take it in their home on their own equipment, so long as it's compliant with our security standards and technological standards. And for students who have difficulty getting to a nearby test center, or they have requirements that they need to be in the home, for example, looking after childcare or elder care, it really is a wonderful option to be able to take the test at home. And we also have launched the TOEFL paper-based edition. So what that means is all 3 of these, whether you're taking it as a paper-based or in-home or in a test center, it's the exact same test everywhere you take it. The same scoring, the same sort of questions, the same score reporting features, everything is identical. The difference is just we wanted to give students the opportunity to test in the way that works best for their own learning style. The paper edition lets you take 3 skills in a test center, the reading, the writing, and listening, and then you take the speaking at home using your own equipment. The speaking test section is only 20 minutes, so it's not very lengthy, but it gives you the opportunity then to, if you're a student who's concerned about the process of taking a speaking section in a testing center with other people nearby you, you now have 2 options, the home edition or the paper edition. So again, we're just trying to meet all of the needs of all possible test takers.
Thank you, Michelle. That was really insightful. Thank you for that. And yeah, so we have the next question. This will be for both Amy as well as Bhavna. So Amy, you can start off with the answer. So the question is, as someone's going abroad for the first time, students may suffer from cultural shock. Are there any counselors available to help students in distress? So yeah, Amy, you can start. And after that, Bhavna, you can also give some opinion on it.
Yes, particularly with culture shock, that's a unique experience that our students from abroad experience. And our counseling center here in the University of North Dakota is an excellent resources for students to kind of meet with a counselor, talk about what they're feeling. counseling is something that may be somewhat new. You might not have experienced it before, but it is an excellent resource. And I find that many students that do decide to give it a try really do find it beneficial and really making a connection with those that they're talking to. We also have a group actually on our campus for international students specifically for them to get together, kind of share their experience and what they're struggling with. So they have a place where they can meet with other students that are going through the exact same thing, which is an excellent resource for students to experience. A little bit outside of counseling, we also have an international organization where a group of international students meet kind of for the same purpose, not with an experienced licensed counselor, but just a place for students to feel welcome, to have a sense of community and kind of go together through the different stages of culture shock. We completely understand that it's an issue that should not be taken lightly, and we definitely have a space for students to feel that they can share how they're feeling and get support.
Thank you, Amy. Bhavna, your opinion on it?
Amy has actually, I think, covered everything very well. So let me speak a little bit about what students can do before they enter the university to mitigate, this change and this transition that they experience, and this perhaps culture shock as well. So while you're on campus, Amy's already told you all the resources that are available to you. Check in with the student services office, at whichever university you choose to join. Ask them what kind of resources and services are available with with the health services team. But before you go to the US, it's also very important to prepare yourself about what's going to happen when you move from one country to the other, one education system to the other, one culture to the other. Education USA centers around India, in fact, offer a series of sessions and workshops for students once they've, once students have received their visas or they have applied for their student visa, they can actually get in touch with us. And we offer an entire range of workshops for them to get more comfortable with what they can expect as they land in the United States, from what they should pack to port of entry procedures, to what happens when they arrive on campus, whether they should buy a phone and phone numbers, bank accounts, what is the academic environment like, what is classroom learning like, other resources available to students. So we cover all of those things, and it's very important to keep yourselves informed so that if there is a situation and you need help, you can access all of those resources and you know where to go and whom to ask.
Thank you, Bhavna and Amy, for the same. It is something that students should be knowing if they are planning to study abroad. So yeah, so my next question is, again, Bhavna, it's for you. Scholarship opportunities available, and how can students apply for scholarship?
So there are multiple scholarships available for students. First thing that students should do before they start applying to programs in their shortlisting universities, and especially if they need funding, is to look at what kind of scholarships are available for the programs that they're applying to. Are these scholarships need-based? Are they merit-based? Are the schools considering both aspects? So that is one. Also look at any private sources of funding. And there are plenty of those available in India. So there are organizations that offer funding to students. There are, so just to give you an example, there are a couple that work with specific schools. So there is the Reliance Dhirubhai fellowship that is specifically for students going to Stanford. But there are others, there are, in fact, I saw a question about 100% funding. There is the Fulbright program, the Fulbright Nehru Masters Fellowship, which provides 100% funding to students when they go to pursue their masters in the United States, and students can look at that. The Fulbright program is a US State Department program, and they run this program in 50-50 partnership with the Indian government. And that's why it's called the Fulbright Nehru. So look at those opportunities as well. There is, the Rodham Shikshadia scholarship. There's a whole lot of other private scholarships. We maintain a list of these, and you can reach out to us. We can kind of help you go through this list and see which ones are applicable. There are some specialized scholarships also for students with disabilities. There are scholarships specifically for women. There is the new Quad Fellowship for students in STEM programs. So there's a whole bunch of options available. It really depends on what you're applying for, which during which time of the year you are applying for the programs. Do reach out to us and we can help you look for funding opportunities within the university and outside of the university.
Joseph, I would like to add to what
Yes,
Bhavna
Supriya,
mentioned.
please. Yeah.
So, well, we as Empower, we have committed over $500,000 of scholarship for the international students. So there are a lot of scholarships, be it monthly, women in STEM, global citizen scholarships. So would love to, if the students would really like to explore, they can come and visit Empower's website, and they would be able to get the information on various scholarships that we are offering. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavna, and thank you, Supriya. Yeah. So my next question is for Elena as well as Supriya. So Elena, you can start. So the question is average living cost for a student and how to manage your expense when you're studying in US. So Elena, you can start, and then Supriya, you can chip in.
Yeah, of course. I think how to manage your expenses is something that takes some time to learn initially, just because when you're like living on your own, you just don't know where to get the cheapest things from. So I think when it comes to managing expenses, just have a fixed cost on, I think just keep your primary cost towards food, making sure you're eating healthy, making sure you're cooking your own food if you have an apartment. And then I think have some miscellaneous expenses. I think for me, what I do is I usually, I interned at a place last summer, so I have savings from there, and I'm also working an on-campus job. And of course, my parents help me out as well. But when it comes to managing expenses, I think it's important to be smart about where you are sort of spending your money. I think I still am in the habit of converting dollars into rupees because I still don't understand dollars that much, because I'm still like thinking, okay, if I buy this t-shirt, how much is that going to be in rupees? And if it's not worth it, I'm not going to buy it. So I think just be really smart about it, because I think I'm sure like all of you all who are like applying, you know how expensive it is to study over here. So I just try to cut down on a lot of extra stuff. Like I don't do a lot of shopping, or like I would probably just focus more on food and like health sort of stuff. So like have your priorities straight, know what you can afford to spend a lot at, and then cut down on other things. That's all I do. It's really not that hard. It's just about knowing where you come from, knowing how much you can spend, and having like a fixed budget, like make an Excel sheet, do all of that, and I think you'll be fine.
Thank you, Elena. Supriya.
Well said, Alina. I think she has covered almost everything here. Well, I would like to add in here, see, your apartment and housing cost, including your utilities, would cost you approximately 17,200 USD per year, right? Food, approximately 6,500 USD per year. Dormitory housing would be around 7.5 to 11.9 or close to 12,000 USD per year. Books and supplies would be 900 to 1,000 USD per year, and then miscellaneous, as Elena mentioned, it would be around 6,700 USD per year. Now, having said this, and with the tuition fee and all the expenses that you're going to incur, it's very, very important to chalk out a plan how you're going to manage your expenses, right? So, ask, as Bhavna and everybody mentioned, that ask your school for the part-time and the scholarship opportunities. Along with that, you also need to manage your personal savings, need to figure out how your family is going to support you, and over and above, if you really do not want to put your parents in debt, or you don't want to really mortgage your hard-earned assets of your parents, then you should look out for very reasonable unsecured loans. Unsecured, by the word unsecured means no collateral, no cosigner loans, right? So here, this such loans will help you to fund your studies, and that to approximately 100% of the cost that you would incur. So for Empower, like we fund up to $100,000 to the students. That covers the entire tuition fees, living expenses, meals, books, and whatever you can invoice to the university, right? That gets covered. Having said this, it's very important to understand why you should think about and probably explore no collateral and no cosigner loans, because that will mitigate the risk uh, of mortgaging any assets that I have mentioned. Along with that, uh, you have to also understand the fact that you're going to US probably to really sustain your life, be there, study, and earn your livelihood. So in doing that, US credit history, building US credit history is also a very important and a critical aspect. Right now, why it is important to build a US credit history? You want to, after graduation, you want to rent a car, you need to show your US credit history. Probably you want to rent an apartment, people might ask you to show your US credit history. Even while setting for an employment, your prospective employer would ask and would like to see your US credit history. Now you can only build your US credit history once you take a particular loan from a US firm, right? Because that will help you to build through your transactions. It will help you to build your US credit history. And more so, try to figure out and get a product which is less of a loan, more of an investment in you, right? So there are definitely options here who will, the products that will help you not only getting funds for your education, but also will help you just when you are about to graduate, it will help you in your career development, right? Say for an example, in Empower, we have Path to Success program, wherein we help the students review their resume. We help them connect with various mentors. We help them connect them with to various communities and alumni association, right? And we make them job ready, right? So as we offer funds to the students, purely looking at their future earning potential, right? So we are taking a huge risk. We actually invest uh, in the students, uh, just looking at their potential and merit, and that's about it, without even asking a single penny to pay us, until and unless they get into a college and they start their campus studies. So try to understand and take a very judicious decision of choosing a particular service or a product when you are thinking about funding your education, whether it should be a fixed interest versus variable interest. You know very well the Fed rates are going up, the repo rates are also, it's on a higher trend. So do a bit of research, understand what has been the trend for the last 10 to 20 years, whether the interest rate's gonna really stay stable or it's going to go up. So um, at this particular moment, I would certainly suggest that a fixed rate of interest is a clear winner, because you are getting a commitment from from a lending firm, and that your EMI is gonna be absolutely the same, be whatever the Fed rates or the repo rates be in the near future. So these are a certain salient features and aspects which you should do the research and you should gather information when you plan your finances. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Supriyo. So I think you have answered this question as well, somewhat. So this question is for you, Supriyo. How does a student get to understand the actual cost of student loan in India? And like you told
Yep.
about fixed and variable rate, which is better for a student loan?
Thank you, Joseph. This is really, really very important. See, our Indian students and the parents, they are pretty comfortable understanding the traditional way of banking and the way they are approached, right, by the banking and financial services people. Now we have to understand the concept of APR, that is annual percentage rate. That is what exactly the total amount or the percentage that I'm actually paying or incurring as a rate of interest, right? Because it is very easy to say that, okay, you're paying X percentage, and then there are 1, 2, 3 other hidden expenses as well, which if you are not aware, you get a shock of your life when you sign up for that particular loan or funds when you're in the university. Then you get to see that it's impacting, your balances. So always try to ask these questions whenever you sit in front of any particular lender. Do ask them that how a variable interest rate is going to impact my overall cost of funding, right? Not really the first month of EMI, it's total cost of funding, how it is really going to impact, right? Second, what is the processing fee, how much I'm really going to pay for that, right? What is the insurance fee which I'm going to pay over and above the principal amount that I'm seeking for? Then what would be the forex charges as well? Because if you're taking a loan in INR, right, this is the difference between an INR loan and a USD loan. If you take a loan from a US firm in USD, you don't have to worry about exchange rates. You don't have to really worry about sending the money to the US universities, because the lender would do it, like Empower, we do it for the students straight away. So when you start asking these relevant questions to the lender, you will be able to understand the actual cost of lending. So it's not merely the cost that you are getting just before signing that very lucrative piece of paper called a processing fee for the banks and institutions. So you have to also do a bit of research and ask them these relevant questions, and only then you will be able to understand and decipher the real cost and the percentage that you are going to pay while repaying the loan and the funds that you have taken up from the institutions. So it's very, very important to do some research, and also at least handle the expectation of your parents, your relatives, because there would be a lot of external factors, and would say, hey, I can see right in front of my eyes there is a branch of that particular bank. Why don't we go and just ask them if they can help us out? So what I would suggest is do a lot of research, get the information, and then take a judicious decision, because at the end of the day, it's your money. And I think some research before you take any particular decision would help you save a lot, many thousands of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Supriyo. So I would now like to call Michelle for unveiling the GRE voucher. So Michelle, yeah, so you can tell the students about the new GRE voucher that we are offering to them.
Sure. I'm very excited to be able to say that we have this New Year's sale going on for students. It allows them to save up to 4,000 rupees on their GRE test registration. And we also want to make sure that students are checking with their institutions at the graduate level to see if they also will need to take their TOEFL test so that they can manage the schedules of the two tests and the timing of them in an efficient manner so they can get the results. The GRE test is a great way to enter into graduate school for a master's, excuse me, or a PhD. Certainly make sure that the university requires the test. We never want anyone to take a test that is not required by an institution. That's waste of money and a waste of your precious time. But for those programs that do accept it, I think it's a great opportunity, and that cost savings will really make a difference because you can use it then for other aspects of your college process.
Thank you, Michelle. So I request students to please take a screenshot of this page, and while you're registering for GRE, use this code and avail the discounts. Yeah, thank you. So with that, now I would like to call upon Bhavna. So Bhavna will now help you with the steps to get into a US universities. So she'll be explaining everything about it. So yeah, over to you, Bhavna.
Thank you so much, Joseph. And because we've covered so many aspects of this already, I'm going to go over the slides a bit quickly. I may skip a few as well, students, so that we're not just repeating all of this information, and we can spend more time on the questions that we've received from our audience. Joseph, if you could go to the next slide, please. So to tell you a little bit about Education USA, we are a US government supported program. It's a State Department program, And our job is to provide accurate, current, and comprehensive information to students across the globe who are looking to study in the United States. In India, we're represented by 8 centers in 7 cities. 5 of these centers are administered by the Fulbright Commission in India, which is the United States India Education Foundation. And these centers are located in New Delhi, where I'm based, Kolkata, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Chennai. And we have 3 additional centers in Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Hyderabad that are managed by 3 not-for-profit organizations. Around the world, there are more than 430 advising centers across 170 plus countries that offer this standardized advice to students. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes, and just to give you a quick sense of the education system in the US, you have a variety of institutions. You know, you have more than 4,000 accredited higher education institutions that you can choose from. And there's something for everyone. I'm seeing questions from students about, hey, I'm an average student, or my score is such and such on the TOEFL and the GRE. Can I get scholarship, or can I get into a US university? So the answer to all of those questions is there is something for everyone. There's that many accredited higher education institutions in the US. And then, you know, universities are available in different formats. So you have public institutions that are funded by, you know, they get government funding, and then there are private institutions that get funding from, you know, through private endowments. Public universities tend to be larger in size, but you also tend to see a lot more scholarships available at private institutions. You also have some specialized liberal arts programs, although the entire US higher education system is based on liberal arts format, where you study, you know, at the undergraduate level, where you study a variety of subjects in the first 2 years, and then you major in your you know, your chosen area of specialization. But liberal arts schools also kind of lay a lot of emphasis on wholesome education and holistic learning. You're not just focusing on the subject that you're studying, but gaining a lot of other knowledge that kind of gives you a breadth of information. There are also specialized institutions. You know, so you have conservatories, you have schools of music and design that are specifically dedicated to just offering those programs. You may have heard of the Berkeley College of Music, or you may have heard of Juilliard, or you may have heard of the Savannah College of Art and Design, SCAD. So these are all, you know, specialized institutions available for students. And then we also have community colleges in the US that allow for affordable education, where students can actually do the first 2 years of their undergraduate degree at a community college and then transfer to a 4-year institution for the next 2 years of their degree. So students who are looking for undergraduate education at an affordable cost, please do consider community colleges in the US as well. At the undergraduate level, there are mainly 2 types of degrees. So you have associate degree programs that are offered at community colleges. And then you have bachelor's degree programs. Most international students from India pursue bachelor's degree programs because these allow them to kind of, you know, do master's programs and also pursue job opportunities after they graduate. At the graduate level, there are multiple options. So you have master's programs that range from 1 year to 2 years. You have doctoral degree programs. You also have integrated programs, you know, graduate plus masters, masters plus PhD, so master's programs that can be converted to PhD programs. So all those options are available, and there's a huge amount of flexibility within the US higher education system for all of these. And students also get to do postdoctoral work in the US if that's what you're interested in. Joseph, we could go to the next slide, please. You know, at Education USA, we've divided the entire process of applying to US universities into 5 simple steps. It can be very overwhelming. Does take a lot of time. And so you can sort of look at the entire process, you know, through these 5 steps. The first is to research your options. This step, in fact, Joseph, we can actually go to the next slide so I can quickly cover the 5 steps. The first step is to really look at what your priorities are. What is it that you want to pursue? What is, you know, how much are you willing to pay for your education? Do you need funding? Do you need a scholarship? would you like to pursue internship opportunities or practical training opportunities after you graduate? Do you want to pursue a one-year degree program at the master's level or a two-year degree program? Do you want to, if you're studying at the undergraduate level, do you want to do a double major or a single major? So there's a whole lot of considerations for you to look at. What kind of school do you want to go into? Do you want to go into a very selective school or a school that has a high acceptance rate? So look at what your priorities are. On the Education USA website, which is educationusa.state.gov, there is an entire worksheet that you can look at and that will help you work through your priorities in terms of your academic priorities and your professional priorities. So look at those and then start looking for programs. Are you somebody who doesn't like the cold weather? You want to be on the west coast of the United States. You want to be near beaches. That could be a consideration as well. Are you somebody who thrives in a small classroom size versus a very large classroom? So think about these things when you're applying for, when you're choosing universities. Once you've narrowed down your choices and you've come up with a short list, you can then move on to the next steps. Remember, students, Education USA helps students with all of these different, all of these 5 steps. So you can actually seek our assistance and help if you get stuck at any of these 5 stages. Usually students start working on step 1 12 to 18 months before the start of the degree program. Joseph, you could go to the next slide, please. So I talked about some of the priorities. Priorities could range from the reputation of the institution, the acceptance rate, like I mentioned, the cost of the program, the geographical location that you're looking at, housing, campus setting, what kind of climate, what are the international student services that the campus has on offer, what is the profile of faculty. If you're a student who wants to pursue PhD, it becomes very important. You will actually look at the faculty profile before you look at anything else, perhaps. And what kind of research you want to do. So look at some of these things before you decide or you start applying to universities. Next slide, please. Step 2 is about preparing your budget. And the reason, and step 2 and step 1 really go in tandem. A lot of times students, what they do is they will apply to programs, they'll get admits, and then they start looking at funding. And sometimes it's too late to do that. If you want to apply for loans, if you want to apply for scholarships, all of this needs some groundwork and preparation. And we always tell students, take funding into consideration when you are shortlisting universities and researching your options so that you can find the right fit for you. We've heard from Supriyo about the cost of attendance. So when you're looking at studying in the US, please do not just look at the tuition. You must look at tuition and your living expenses, and that'll constitute your overall cost of attendance. Cost of attendance will also vary on where in the United States you're staying. So please kind of look at some of these things. You can also use the common data set, university websites, the Education USA website to get more information about cost, funding, scholarship opportunities. And like I said, you can come to us and we can help you look for additional opportunities as well. We've spoken about CPT, OPT, co-op programs, and these are additional ways of funding your education. But please do not rely only on this to fund your education. Remember that you need funding before you start the program. So you need to show funding. You need to show that you have enough resources to fund your education before you start these programs. And therefore, this should be in addition to what you're already doing. CPT, OPT, and co-op programs should not just be the main means of funding your education. You need to make a financial plan and prepare documents, and you need to start doing this at the time that you're applying, not when you're just getting the admit. Sometimes it can be too late. Also, you must check priority deadlines for scholarships so that you don't miss these out. A lot of students come to us after they've received admits and have received their I-20s and realize that they have to pay a whole lot, and then they start looking for scholarships and the deadlines have already gone for that year. So you want to look at this at the very beginning of the process. Next slide, please, Joseph. We've talked about cost of education. So tuition, library expenses, lab equipment, all of this, and then living costs would include room and board, your books, your transportation, health insurance, which is mandatory for international students, any personal expenses, security deposits, etc. Joseph, next slide, please. I think, yeah, so we've spoken about, I think, all of these. We've talked about what you can do on campus. During the course of your degree program, you're allowed to work on campus for about 20 hours a week. During summer breaks, you're allowed to work about 40 hours a week on campus or off campus, as long as the off-campus job is an internship or something related, directly related to your degree program. And also please check with the International Student Office and the designated school official on when you can begin your internship opportunities and when those opportunities, when that period needs to end, so that you're able to pursue practical training opportunities after you graduate as well, and you don't miss out on those. You can also look at TA, teaching assistant jobs. You can look at graduate assistant jobs, research assistant jobs on campus. But again, please start looking at these at the time of applying to universities and not after you have gotten admits, because these are competitive. There are also sports scholarship, and these are obviously specialized scholarships. So if you are somebody who's who's a sports person and has been playing sport for a while and are playing at a certain level, there are coaches that often come to India, and they will, seek those opportunities if they're available with the universities as well, and see if you are eligible for a sports scholarship. Next slide, please. The third step is actually applying to the US university. So this is the time when you get your your statements of purpose ready, you get your college essays done, you get your diversity statements ready. For students who need recommendation letters, you also write to people that you need letters of recommendation from, and you need to submit all of this before the deadline. So start preparing well in advance. If you look at the slide, it says 12 to 18 months prior to the start of your program. So this is something that you must look at, and also be mindful of early. If you're looking at undergraduate degrees, then please be mindful of early decision and early action. These are early application deadlines, and there are some restrictions when you apply for EA or ED. So please check in with the university on what some of those restrictions might be. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. We've talked about some of the things in your application package. Education USA helps students with all of these aspects. In fact, we have an entire repository of videos and webinars and workshops that we've done. We've put it on YouTube. So if you go to the Education USA India page, you will find information on every step of the 5 steps that I've talked about today. And there's information about all of the things that you see on your screen right now. And this information is coming straight from university representatives, students, people who are directly part of this entire process. Can we go to the next slide? Next slide, please. Yeah, same thing. So we were talking about the undergraduate application here. The graduate application will differ from the undergraduate application slightly depending on which university you're applying to. So one of the things, because we have ETS organizing this, one of the big things that you have to look at is, of course, the standardized tests that you have to take at the undergraduate and the graduate level. One of the tests that is common is the TOEFL. So students who are pursuing undergraduate education or graduate education, they need to take the TOEFL. And then you also have, the GRE that you may have to take, again, depending on the program that you're applying to. So make sure that you start looking at these dates well in advance. And by the time that you're ready to apply to universities, you have these scores. Ideally, we would say you should have enough time to repeat a test in case the need arises. So, and Michelle has spoken to you about, that there's discounts that you're getting today, which are great. So make use of those opportunities so that you not only have time to take the test, but in case the need arises, you have time to retake the test and improve your scores as well. Can we go to the next slide, please? Step 4, this is your student visa process. And this is an important one. It's also one of the, I think, the most dreaded parts of applying to US universities and getting admission. So this happens once you have received admits from universities and you have chosen one and gotten an I-20 from your chosen institution. You actually apply for your, you submit your financials, you receive your I-20, you apply for your student visa, and then you go for your visa interview. For a lot of students now, the option of Dropbox is also available, which means if you've been on another, any category of visas for the US, there may be an option for you to just put in your application in a Dropbox and get a visa. You can go to the US Embassy's website and get more information on this, but a lot of students usually go through the interview process. The US Embassy processed more than 100,000 they processed that many, more than 100,000 last year. And they're looking to support students this year as well with their visa applications and requests. But it's very important to know the process and do it right so that your application doesn't inadvertently get rejected. We actually offer sessions with consular officers from the US Embassy. These usually start in the month of April, and we'll provide more information to you as these happen. And you can attend these so that you have a clear understanding of the process as you move forward. Can we go to the next slide? And this is the final step. I mentioned this early on in our discussion. This is pre-departure orientation. So before you go to the US, what are some things that you need to be ready with? How do what are some things that you need when you travel? What are different port of entry procedures? We do sessions with the Department of Homeland Security. We do sessions with USCIS that talk about maintaining your status as a student, accommodations on campus, and other things that you need to know to have a seamless experience when you move to the US, and then when you actually live there on campus or off it, and you can maximize your time as a student at your chosen US university. So these are the main 5 steps. Just we could go to the next slide, please. You can connect with us through the Education USA mobile app. This is available on the Google App Store as well as the Apple App Store. All you need to do is type in Education USA India, and you'll get a whole lot of information on applying to US universities. Next slide, please. You can also take a picture of the screen here. This has information of our toll-free line. It also has links to our calendar, weekly calendar of activities, and our sign-up form in case you need any updates. So please do stay connected with us. We have a very vibrant presence on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and other social media platforms. And I talked about YouTube with a whole repository of videos. So please do access those to get a whole lot of free resources that are accurate, current, and comprehensive. Next slide, please. We are organizing a very, very special event tomorrow. This is happening after a gap of 2 years. This is going to be an in-person alumni fair at the American Center in New Delhi. We are hosting this in collaboration with the US Embassy. There will be 30+ alums, current students, university reps, from more than 25 US universities, all accredited universities in the United States. And you will have the opportunity to talk to them about their experience, what they went through. Much like Elena has spoken to you today, they will be there talking about their journey, giving you tips on what you can do as you apply to US universities. ETS will also be at this fair tomorrow. So in case you're looking for any information on various standardized tests and language English proficiency tests, and then please do reach out to them at the fair tomorrow. This is again at the American Center. The registration link is on your screen, so you may take a screenshot, or you may simply go to the QR code and sign up for the fair. This is a free event. It's happening at 12 o'clock in the afternoon at the American Center, so do join us for this. And that brings us to the end of my presentation. If you could just go to the next slide, that has information on all the Education USA centers that we have in India. And you can again take a picture of this screen in case you'd like to connect with any of those centers for more information about studying. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bhavna. That was really insightful. And with that, we have got a lot of questions from the audience. So yeah, we have picked few questions for you all. So my first question is for both Amy and Bhavna. Any one of you can answer. What should a letter of recommendation contain? Also, is there a set format of writing a statement of purpose? Which university prefer while shortlisting? So any one of you can answer. Yeah. So Bhavna, would you like to go first? Yeah.
Sure. So important to note that each university will have its requirements. So please do check those requirements before writing any essays. A lot of universities will also share sample essays, on their websites, things that they appreciate, that they like in the kind of essays that receive. So look at those. Ask the university reps as well if they have any videos or any information on writing SOPs for their institution, because they often do a lot of sessions. They do them with ETS, with Education USA, with a whole lot of organizations, and they can probably share those links with you as well, so that you have some tips available before you start writing. At Education USA, we have a whole lot of videos available on our YouTube page. You can, again, have your essays looked at. We can look at your essays and give you tips on those. With regard to letters of recommendation, it's, first of all, it's very important to make sure that, they are private, that you are waiving your right to look at those letters of recommendation. Otherwise, they lose their credibility. And make sure the person who's writing your letter of recommendation is somebody who have observed you over a period of time and is able to kind of write about your work and the kind of person you are. There is a format for letters of recommendation, but sometimes US universities will have their own platform where you need to, where recommenders will have to go and submit their recommendations. So again, you will want to see what that format is and accordingly have those submitted. We also do workshops with the school teachers, with university professors, with school counselors on how to write letters of recommendation. So if you feel that there is need for something like this at your institutions, at your education institutions, we're happy to come and offer these kind of sessions. All of this is free of cost, by the way. So we do this for students and for, for administrators who are writing letters of recommendation. Is an LOR necessary from the current college? I'm just taking this question because I'm seeing it on the screen and it's related. It is not always necessary unless the university is asking for it, but it does help if you have a letter of recommendation from somebody who's observed you recently and can talk about your work, whether it's your sort of academic profile and things you've done at your institution or anything else. So it does help to get this information from someone who's observed you recently.
Yeah, thank you, Bhavna, for answering the question. So my next question is for Michelle. Michelle, this question is from a student. He has written that apart from the TOEFL and GRE, is there any other eligibility test we must do to secure admission? What is the best score a student should aim for? And is GRE accepted in business schools too in the US?
So yes, there are multiple other tests. I can be candid and say I don't work for those companies. So I'm not exactly in a position to promote them. But if you go to the university website of the institutions that you're interested in, you'll see that they will list and identify any assessments that they require for admission. In the case of undergraduate admission, you will see different entrance tests. You will not see the GRE because that is used exclusively for graduate school. TOEFL and all the other English language proficiency tests are used as part of the admissions process, but are not considered an admissions entrance tests. So that's the distinction there. You might find them then listed only on pages dedicated to international student admissions. So keep that in mind. So far as the uses of the GRE, we are very pleased to say that the GRE is accepted not only for graduate degree programs and master's and PhD, but it is also accepted by business schools throughout the world. And it's also accepted for US institutional law schools for those students who are getting a JD. Most international students, though, coming to a law school are going to get an LLM, and no GRE is required for that. You will find that in the case of the TOEFL test, it is preferred by 9 out of 10 US institutions, and therefore it is the dominant test, and you're safe to take that for acceptance. And with the GRE, again, while it is certainly the most popular and most diversely used graduate school entrance test, always check and make sure that your graduate school requires it.
Thank you, Michelle, for that. My next question is for Amy. Amy, what are the popular courses in North Dakota for Indian students?
Popular courses?
Yeah. any popular course that Indian students prefer going for?
I can't specifically say popular. I would say that many of our students go into the research for engineering. So many different engineering. Our institution is a research institution. So mechanical, civil, petroleum, all of the
Okay.
engineerings are pretty popular.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Again, this question is from a student, and this is for you, Supriyo. Would it be possible to secure 100% loan which covers our study and living expenses?
Yeah, definitely. Why not? As I mentioned, that the average cost of attendance and living expenses together would be approximately $45,000. So even if you look at Empower, we offer $100,000 as a lifetime loan limit. So you would be able to cover your expenses, be it your tuition, living expenses, meals, books, or whatever, right? So that's definitely possible. Now, for those universities wherein you would need more than $100,000, there you have to you have to arrange your personal funds, right? Self-funding. It could be a sponsorships, it could be sponsor, it could be someone from your relative who is ready to sponsor you, and just show that balance fund. So that's about it. Pretty simple.
Thank you, Supriyo, for that. So my next question is for Elena. Elena, this is a question from a student. He's asking any tips for us as students, do and don'ts while we are studying in US?
Yeah, of course. I think specifically for don'ts, it's probably going to be that do not procrastinate. This is something that I learned in my first semester of freshman year, that I think I actually got into the habit in India, because I did my 12th grade online during COVID. So I think I got into the habit of procrastinating, studying before, a day before the exam. So I think that is not something that works here, because here, the kind of learning that I'm getting, especially in marketing, it's all hands-on experience. It's talking to professors, it's so many presentations, it's a lot of practical-based exams. I think it's not something that you can do at the last moment. So do not procrastinate at all. And I think for do's, it's probably going to be, I know this is sort of like an overrated, it's like an overused term, but called networking. I think when you come to the US, you're spending so much of your time, money, effort, blood, sweat, tears, everything to get a good education. And your education is the best backup plan you can have in life, is what I believe in. So I think do talk to as many people as possible. Don't try to stay in your comfort zone. I know being an international student is hard. It's a huge cultural shock, but don't just try to sort of hang out with international students. Try to talk to as many people as you can, because I think you're studying in the US at the end of the day. Getting a feel for the culture is also important. So that is something you should do for sure.
Thank you, Elena. And this is the last question, and this is for Michelle. So Michelle, the student has asked, is there an unmarked section in TOEFL? I answered 40 questions, however, was scored only for 30.
In the TOEFL test itself, we don't have the same sort of unscored section like we do in the GRE, where we clearly identify it. So for TOEFL, if this student had a section with 40 questions, was only scored on 30, clearly whatever that 40th question or response was from the test taker, it was not deemed scoreable. For the exact reasons I certainly can't speak to in this case, but that is highly likely the case where that individual's answer was not scoreable. And rather than penalize the student and guess what would be a fair score, we would rather not score that particular answer.
Thank you, Michelle. So with that, now I will ask Karthik to please post the quiz link on the chat box, so students can now start taking the quiz. You will be given 15 minutes, so we will be closing the form at 8:17 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So with that, I would like to end this session as well, and I would like to thank all the participants and the panelists who are present here. Thank you, panelists, for giving insights into studying in USA. And I think definitely it would have helped a lot of students in their dream to get into a US university. So thank you all for being part of this session, and have a good evening. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thanks,
Thank
Amy,
you so much.
Michelle, Elena, Supriyo, and Bhavna. It was quite informative and hope these students enjoyed it as well. Thank you
Thank
all.
you, Karthik.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.